Before we get into this week's episode, She Sets a Standard London Live is back. Friday, the 13th of November, 2026, we are hosting the third edition of the premium business event in Europe. The theme for this year is decisions from a different dimension, because you do not need more information. You don't need another strategy. You don't need to look at somebody else's framework to know how to run your business. It is about taking decisions from a completely different vantage point, tapping into that self-trust and feeling that aliveness in your business. We have an incredible selection of speakers who have built businesses to insane levels of success, are sharing how they made that happen, the decisions that made that happen, and that they're still doing today as they continue to run industry category leading businesses. And you will immerse yourself in the experience of setting the standard that you want to lead with next. We do not design this event to be a place where you come and listen and sit back and get information. It is about changing, shifting your identity and what you see as possible in the room. The tickets for She Sets a Standard are live now. I cannot wait to see who's in that room and to see the breakthroughs from this year. Get your ticket in the show notes. When you are going out, creating relationships, building your network, is what's somebody going to remember you for? What is that point that makes someone lean in and go, I want to hear her story. I want to know more about her. I want to hear about her background. I would love to have another conversation with her. I want to go for coffee. What is that point? Because it's not going to come from you telling them what you do or who you work with or what offers you run. Like, nobody cares. They care about how can they be of value to me? Why are they interesting? Why are they interesting for me to know? Because people want to be in a network. They want to establish relationships with people that are going to make them look good as well. Welcome to Rich Work, the podcast for established female entrepreneurs ready to turn their expertise into premium clients and consistent high-ticket revenue. I'm Rachel Pearson, global brand and business strategist, skincare obsessed, and always distracted by booking the next mini break. Here you'll learn how to position like a luxury brand, attract clients who love to invest, and build wealth that actually lasts, so you can create the business and life you want, not someone else's version of success. This is where premium positioning and building wealth meet for women who are rewriting the rules. Let's get into it. You know that phrase, your network is your net worth? I really believe it. And I'm getting asked this question a lot recently around how I've built relationships that have helped me through my career, have helped me further my business, and also given me opportunities in my personal life that I didn't have access to before. And so I thought, why not do a podcast episode on it? This is from my own experience. Unfortunately, there's no guidebook, rule book that I have found to how to do this, but I'm going to talk about how some of the things that I've put in place that have meant that I have built a network that not only supports me, but also has been really commercially positive for me as well, has led to new business, has led to client opportunities. So that's what I'm going to dive into in this episode of Rich Work. I have always built relationships really well, and I know it's a natural strength of mine to build relationships. I spend a lot of time on them, but I also think it's important to say that I am an introvert. I would class myself as that now, even though I love socializing, I love hosting. My poor husband will not always love that, because on a Sunday I'm like, oh, I've invited so-and-so around for a barbecue. But I love hosting, but I need my space. I need to get my energy back after I've been in groups, after I've been to a party or I've been to a business event. I need that space. I'm not the one that's propping up the bar at midnight, getting to know everybody and socializing. I have to just go back to my hotel room, often have my dinner on my own in my hotel room, because I need that. And at school, I was really shy and got very anxious about speaking publicly, whether that was to answer a question in the class or to speak in front of the class or to read something out. I would get really worked up about it. And I think it's important to say that, because you can be really great at building relationships and still not feel the most confident person in the room. You can also be the most confident person in the room and be really great at building relationships. And my point is that we just don't need assumptions around what we can and cannot do. But relationships have always been really important to me because ultimately selling is a relationship. The higher the value of what you're selling, the more important the relationship is. And I look at how, different industries do this. So I've spent a lot of time in the hospitality industry. So looking at hotels and the way that they create loyalty with their clients and their customers, their guests. And it's ultimately through relationships. Loyalty schemes at hotels are relationship building. Pretty much any loyalty scheme is about relationships as well. But I even think about my husband. We just had our 10-year wedding anniversary and he bought me a diamond tennis bracelet. It's beautiful. And it's from the same diamonds that my engagement ring is from. My wedding ring has the same diamonds. I have a ring for when my first son was born, and I have some diamond studs as well for when my second son was born. So I don't want to give the impression that I'm just dripping in diamonds all the time. I don't wear these all at once, all together, but they are a collection. They're special pieces for me of what they represent. The jeweler that my husband gets all these pieces from is the same guy. He's the same guy that you've known for years now, and he builds relationships. You look at an industry that is not online at all, really, and has high net worth clients. It's through relationship building, through taking them to the O2, through knowing about their families. So when my husband contacted him about getting this tennis bracelet for me, he said, "Oh no, I remember." And he had a file about everything that we'd bought before and how old the children are. And he knows all the details. And that's ultimately sales. Like when people feel that, they feel trust. And so with relationships, I have always focused on firstly being really generous without expecting anything back. And I know that can go against what a lot of people will tell you of you shouldn't do things for free. And there's certain times where I agree with that, but I feel like when you are creating relationships that have a high potential, that they could lead into something bigger for you, that they could lead into a wider network, that they're going to help position you, then it is about building trust with that person, about building trust with them before you ask for something. And I am going to sound really, out of date when I say this, but we've created this culture, I think, in the online space that you ask for something first, you expect to get something. And because everything's so fast and we want to have fast transactions, we want to have daily sales. And there is an aspect of how you position and how you market, which means that things can happen very quickly. But when there are bigger relationships, particularly if you're working with corporate clients or you want to work with corporate clients or you want to position your business differently, then building those relationships is about building trust. And I am generous with how I support other women to build their businesses, and I don't expect anything back. But I do always see it return. And having that trust in what you do and knowing also what your boundaries are around what is it that you are willing to do and what just makes you feel like you are devalued is important. I had this recently where somebody who I've never met, I'm in a couple of networking groups with her. She messaged me and said thank you because she knew that I'd recommended her events to a few of my clients. And I said, it's fine. Like, I've heard they're really good events. I think they'd be great for my clients. So I'm happy to recommend. But I didn't say, oh, I've got an event coming up. Would you also be able to share it within your network? Like, there's times to do that where if you've got an affiliate set up or it's a different type of event. But with what this lady runs, she runs invite only spaces, dinners. She's got a very similar network to me. And so I just look at it as in, I'm supporting somebody who is in a similar space, who probably has connections that I have as well, that has a good reputation, and who knows where it will lead in the future. But right now, I don't want to make it transactional. And I think that going in with that view of what can I get is where I see people kind of shut the relationship down before it's even got going. I had the biggest opportunities that I've got have been through relationship building. So when I was head of marketing for the startup airline one back in 2020, the reason I got approached for the role was because I'd worked with a guy years before when I was on a graduate scheme, and his wife was the CEO of the business of the airline. And when she was looking for marketing support, he said, you need to speak to Rachel. And she taught me everything about marketing that I know, like you need to get in touch with her. Now, I hadn't spoken to this guy for years, maybe 5, maybe longer. But over the time we'd worked together, we had a good relationship then we went into different companies, but I helped him out at points where when he was looking for a new role, I said, let me look into my LinkedIn contacts, see who I can set up meetings for. And I didn't expect anything back at that point, but it's because I just know the value of having good people in your network that will vouch that you are a good person to do business with. And that's how I got approached for that, through relationship. And I've had multiple opportunities from there where it has been people recommending, referring, and I don't mean referring as in they've just become my client, but saying, Rachel would be really great to go and film this with you, or to be on this radio show, or to do this piece of press. And it's usually because I've just built a really good relationship with that person, and it hasn't felt like I'm just in it to sell to them. That's what I learned from being in the luxury premium space. The thing that is important now when you are doing this is that I'm not just giving my time out all over the place for free, right? So whilst I'm not making it into a transaction, I also know how to position myself. And so when I am introduced to somebody, when I am doing something to help somebody out, I also know how to introduce myself in a way that gets people intrigued. So I won't say, oh, I'm a business coach who works with blah, 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 who does blah, blah, blah. Nobody's going to remember that. So I will share what my mission is, what my bigger purpose is behind my business. I work as a business mentor, as a coach. I also run events. I have a podcast, but my biggest driver is I help women build sustainable businesses because I want them to have wealth. And I want to support women to think about their wealth differently. Do you hear how that's a point of intrigue for people? Because they won't remember me as one of gazillion business coaches out there. They will remember me as the business coach that is here to change how women think about wealth. Now, if somebody then speaks to them and says, oh, I've got this opportunity, I want to hear from women that are thinking about money differently, they'll remember, and then they get back in touch with me. So at the same time as I give generously my time and will support things that I, know are good, have experienced myself are good, then I will also know how to position myself so that they remember me in the future. And I don't expect it back straight away, but I know that I've positioned myself so that I'm not going to be forgotten. And so for you is to think about when you are going out, creating relationships, building your network, is what's somebody going to remember you for? What is that point that makes them want to lean in and go, I want to hear her story. I want to know more about her. I want to hear about her background. I would love to have another conversation with her. I want to go for coffee. What is that point? Because it's not going to come from you telling them what you do or who you work with or what offers you run. Like, nobody cares. They care about how can they be of value to me? Why are they interesting? Why are they interesting for me to know? Because people want to be in a network. They want to establish relationships with people that are going to make them look good as well. And it sounds quite a blunt thing to say, but it's human nature. We want to surround ourselves, particularly when you're working with high level mindset clients that want to grow, that want to evolve. They want to be around people that reflect the identity and status of how they want to be seen. It's not about money. It's not about material things. It's about mindset. Interesting people, dynamic people, people that bring something, that have a story. So how is that going to be you? The other thing that I have on the flip side been really careful about is that I am now really protective over my network. So whilst I will be generous with time and champion other businesses, for clients or for anybody to have access to my network, I don't give that out. So I won't just drop in and say, oh, I know somebody that can help you with that. Here's their contact details, because I've worked really hard to build the network that I've got and to build trust with the people that trust me. And so if I start to name drop, give their details out, say that I can connect people up with them, it doesn't value their time. It doesn't value what they've built either. So I am really cautious about who I invite into that network, into my closer network, that I am really mindful of how I build that relationship. So for example, I had somebody approached me recently, somebody that I used to work with who then became my client and now runs a luxury branding agency, approached me to do consultancy for a really exciting opportunity that they'd got. And I couldn't do it because we're away in the summer. But I said, actually, one of my clients would be ideal for this. But I didn't just go, here's her name, here's her email, get in touch. I checked in with my client and said, look, this is the opportunity. This is what I think it could be. Would you like to be introduced? I checked with the person I'd spoken to as well. Is this okay for me to connect you? And then I facilitated the introduction. But I was really mindful that I needed to get their consent of even doing that introduction. And I think sometimes we want to show that we're helpful and that we are connecting people, but actually every time that you introduce somebody to another conversation, it's their time and it's their time that's been taken out of their business. And so just being really mindful of how I build my network, and I do it slowly, like one person at a time, one connection, and seeing connection points of where people can help each other out. I also really think that relationship building is something that happens organically when you are sharing your values. And this is something that I know, if you've listened to this podcast before, you will know that I advocate for, but relationships are so built on, do you share similar values? You don't have to agree on all the same things or have the same business or have the same lifestyle, or, I'm not trying to create like mini me's, but values in relationships is how I've had relationships for decades now with people that I used to work with, clients. I'm going this week, the week that I'm recording this podcast, I'm going in a couple of days' time to London to meet a client that I worked with probably 17 years ago. And I hadn't spoken to her since, really. Like, we'd had a few messages and I'd supported something that she did, and then she supported something that I did. And then I invited her to my podcast launch earlier in 2026. And then from there, we're going for coffee. But it's because our values are really similar, and how we do business together, what she values is very down to earth, transparent, very good at what she does. And we just really connected on the values piece. And I think if you share that, then you really do attract in people that you're going to be able to build relationships over time. And so that's why I advocate so much for sharing your values and your content, like talking about who are the types of clients that you really love to work with, not because they can pay you and not because they can make you X amount of money, but actually, what do they bring to the table? What's the mindset? What's the values? How do they like to work? Do they work in a really fast way? And that's actually how you need to work with your clients. So sharing your values can be a really great way of building those organic relationships. And getting yourself into rooms, which I feel is a bit like kissing frogs. Kissing the frogs to find your prince, because there are a lot of events, and I have been to tons of events, and some of them, they're great events, but they're just not my event. And I think you do have to just go and go and explore, get curious, experience what it is. Don't limit yourself to one type of format with one type of person, because you will always take something away from events. Even if the content isn't what you thought it was going to be, you will always take something away because of the conversations that you have. But get yourself into rooms, and don't just go into the room thinking, I'm just going to rock up and see what today brings and be inspired. Go into that space knowing that your next client can be in that room. Your next business opportunity can be in that room. Your next media opportunity, your collaboration can be in that room. And it really opened my eyes when I went to an event in Dubai in November 2025. The way that the women in that event networked and followed up was completely different to anything that I've seen, certainly in the UK. And They went in and they knew who they wanted to speak to. They used the breaks really effectively. They got there early. They did the follow-up. And one woman that I was out in Dubai with, when by the time that we'd finished the events, this was like 2 days in, she had secured multi-six figures in business from the event because she was so good at knowing how to lead the conversation and following up as well from events. And this is something that it is really important about getting into rooms, but also getting into rooms that really do reflect where you want to go in business, how you want to do business, the types of events that are going to really help you expand because they bring you new conversations, new people, new types of speakers. And then the follow-up is so important. And that is how I've also built relationships from events is I've had great conversations in the room, but it's also the follow-up from those events where, I've just dropped a message to say, it was really great meeting you. Really enjoyed our conversation on this. A really personal message, no hidden agenda there. And then following up and having a coffee, going for a meeting. From that event in Dubai, I'm now talking with a lady in the US who I met and I spent a lot of time with over in Dubai, who is absolutely incredible. And when she came to London, we met up for dinner and we started to discuss how our businesses could work together. We've got similar complementary skill sets. And then from there, we're now discussing, okay, how do we look at bringing our different expertise together and across the US and in Europe? That was from one event that I went to, a relationship that is just growing. Values are really aligned. And we've just kept the follow-up going as well. You never know what is going to happen from getting yourself into the room, but you are also the one that is responsible for making things happen. And I think that not enough people treat events like that. They don't treat events like the follow-up is really where the opportunity is. They think it's in the room. The room is where it starts and the follow-up is where it really can 10x. So those are my insights into how I've personally just built relationships. Like I said, there's no rule book for this. If there was, I would be all over it. But I continue to focus on building relationships for my work, my consultancy, my highest proximity, like one-to-one coaching. Building relationships has been really key to that, nurturing those relationships, and also creating relationships by events that I've gone to or that I've hosted as well. And if that is something that is on your list of things for this year, then She Sets a Standard is happening in November, Friday, November the 13th in London. And it is where we are including space to network. We have incredible speakers who I cannot announce on this episode, but will be coming very soon. It is designed for you to walk in to meet your next client, meet your next business opportunity. I said at the last She Sets a Standard last November, at the very beginning when I opened the day, I said, be present in this space because there is an incredible network here. There were 100 women running amazing businesses, very dynamic, very growth minded. There is an incredible network here, but you have to be the one that leverages that goes and has conversations. Don't speak to the person that you've recognized or your friend that you've come with in those coffee breaks. Go and meet somebody different. Have the conversation, make the most of the opportunity. And that is exactly what we create at She Sets a Standard in November. So if you are looking for a business event that will give you strategy, it will give you depth, but also it is I call it a business identity experience because the way that I design it is to have your standards raised from before you enter that door, before you walk into the room, you know that you are not going to walk out the same person. If you want to get a taste of what that is, then go back and listen to the previous episode because I give you some insight into how I designed it last year and we're going even bigger this year. So tickets for She Sets a Standard are in the link in the show notes. We are already at the time of recording, we have sold over a quarter of the tickets just from early bird alone and without any details of speakers, venue, anything, just because people know that this is the room to be in. So would absolutely love to see you there. If you've got any questions, you can DM me on Instagram at rachelpearson.co, connect with me, email me. It's always me that replies to emails and get your ticket because this event will sell out. Anyway, this has been an episode on how to build your network, create relationships, create commercial opportunities from the relationships that you're building. And how to continue that actually sets a standard in November. I'm Rachel Pearson, and this is Rich Work. Thanks for tuning in to Rich Work. I'd love it if you left a review. It helps other women to find us. In the meantime, follow me on Instagram at rachelpearson.co for a different take on premium positioning, one that's not about fitting a box. See you next week.